Strange things are afoot in Montecito as a Brooklyn Beckham and his wife Nicola apparently have dinner at Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's house in Montecito with other VIPs, film executives, and they weren't invited, and yet they were invited. But Harry and Meghan are so loving and supportive and caring and all those sorts of things. This is weird. I'm just going to say it straight out. The reports we're getting, what I'm looking at, I just find absolutely bizarre because it's so strange for a couple to be so concerned about their security and yet have party crashers show up sort of uninvited is a little bit bizarre. But the bigger reason why this is a story is because Harry and Meghan are separated from their family for very obvious reasons. And Brooklyn and Nicola are separated currently from his family and going through strife, although the reasons there are a little bit more murky. So this whole situation is almost like toxic family members unite together and embrace the toxicity of themselves together. That's what it seems like. But we're getting sort of varying reports, you could say, and some real strangeness regarding this case. But I would say overall to Brooklyn and Nicola, don't take advice from Harry and Meghan. They have made an absolute catastrophe of their lives. They are the last people you should be taking advice from when it comes to family estrangement because Harry and Meghan have made zero inroads with his family at this point for very obvious reasons. And so we are going to get into all of this today. The varying reports, The Sun broke the story yesterday. People magazine got Harry and Meghan's side. So we're going to look at all of this together and try to suss out what might be truly going on. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, hello, my name is Brittany, and I provide compelling royal commentaries. So if you guys want to hit that subscribe button, I would love to have you back. And so when it comes to the other royals, King Charles and Queen Camilla visited Bradford, and they went to support the King's Trust, including seeing alumni Stephen Frayne. And they saw a rehearsal from local pupils of Sing Dance Leap, an educational program run by the Northern Ballet and Opera North. And they got a wonderful greeting while there. Queen Maxima recently attended some engagements, including one of probably my absolute favorite outfits I've seen her in quite a while. She's wearing this gorgeous light pink ensemble while she opens the Phoenix Museum of Migration in Rotterdam earlier today. King Philippe and Queen Matilda of the Belgians are also on a little bit of a mini tour going to the province of Luxembourg, which, as I understand, is not the actual country of Luxembourg, although there are historic family connections between them. They visited a cybersecurity center, and they visited a local basilica and also heard about the Abbottal Palace, which is currently being renovated. So as I understand it, this is attached to the church, and I'm really liking Queen Matilda's pink ensemble here, so hopefully some fashion details coming soon. And King Harold of Norway met with President Barack Obama and the Crown Princess, in addition to Prime Minister Jonas, over at the palace. He is visiting in connection with a lecture. Obama received the Nobel Peace Prize in 2009. And if you don't know, the Nobel Peace Prize is awarded in Norway, hence the connection there. King Carl Gustaf has followed in the footsteps of both King Frederick and I believe King Wilhelm Alexander and has attended the World Expo in Japan. I believe it is in Osaka this year. Queen Mary attended a meeting of the Mary Foundation. This was an executive meeting, and she said at it, "When we bring the right people together in one room, we can, together and with your help, unite knowledge, experience, and resources. Exactly there, we can make the decisive difference to each child, each young person, and each family." So the Mary Foundation helps support children and tries to address issues related to bullying. All right, guys, to this story. And again, I have to say, I find this whole thing to be exceptionally strange. I was like reading the reports. I was like, wait, what? And I was like, are the Beckhams still feuding with Nicola and Brooklyn? I thought that was sort of kind of, they got past it, but I guess tensions have arisen again because Brooklyn and his wife failed to show up at his father's 50th birthday soiree. And of course, there were very public pictures and they're taking a break and all these sorts of things. And what we know sort of about the tensions between the Beckham and Beckham side is that essentially Brooklyn married his wife quite young. So he must have been, 23 or something when they married. She's about 3 or 4 years older than him. And guys, I totally forgot while I was filming this that another sort of controversy, and I'm sure A source of tension in the family is that Brooklyn decided to take off his middle name, which is Joseph, which he shared with his father, to take her last name as his middle name. I'm sorry, maybe I'm old fashioned, but I think that's a little odd. And I can see where people would be like, that's really weird. Why are you doing that? That's a little strange. And so I can imagine that also being a source of tension within the family that he did that in 2022. And she is the daughter of a billionaire, Nelson Peltz. So a lot of money from her side of the family. She's been trying to make it in Hollywood for years and basically paying to get there, to be quite honest. She's had a couple of roles. From what I remember, she's known for her very, very wooden acting. And that essentially she's getting there because of her daddy's billions. And then there's also sort of the thing where she directed and starred in a movie last year. It has like a 53% of Rotten Tomatoes. Both of the critic reviews were rotten. So she's just not making very many inroads. I think Brooklyn is trying to have some sort of chef career. But, anyways, we're first hitting the media during the lead up to their wedding because allegedly Victoria wanted to design the wedding dress, but Nicola went in a Valentino couture outfit. Now, I will say that since Nicola is not her daughter, just her daughter-in-law, I feel like there's less of a requirement for you to design the wedding gown. I think it makes more sense to have somebody else do it. It would make more sense for Victoria to be excited to do her daughters, not necessarily her daughter-in-law. But my understanding as well is that because of the age difference and how young he was, Victoria and David weren't, let's say, super keen on the wedding, but things seem to kind of be smoothed over. They got married in April of 2022, and things were seemingly okay, but tensions have been rising, you could say, within 2025. And when I was just reading through the reports on it, it was like very vague. I mean, they state the wedding, they state that, oh, Nicola wore a piece of Victoria's like fashion or something. Like it just wasn't real specific. So honestly, we don't really know, I think, what the true tensions are between the Beckham and the Beckhams. And if they are having problems, what you should be doing is going to people, let's say, who know both sides and can maybe help mediate the situation. And you have a lot of money and a lot of egos. That'll kind of cloud things as well, in my opinion. But the two last people on earth I would ever suggest, ever, having a conversation about family strife is Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. They are not the people to talk to. They are the exact opposite people you should talk to because they don't have a good relationship with their family, and not because of the same reasons as the Beckhams. I would argue probably doesn't have that much to do with it. Yes, a woman marrying in was sort of the cause of the strife. But for Harry and Meghan, it was the racist letter that Harry and Meghan gave to the press when they first started dating, claiming everybody was racist if they said anything negative about Meghan Markle. It was her bullying staff members. It was the Megxit situation. It was Harry's book, Netflix, Spotify, so many different things is the cause of the demise of the relationship between Harry and Meghan and the royal family. And we do have indications from Harry himself recently in an interview that the reason that the royal family does not talk to him is that he is too toxic to speak to. They actually separate themselves from him because they can't talk to him. His father doesn't talk to him, his brother doesn't talk to him. He maybe talks to his cousins, but they've even kept their distance for the most part. Like we haven't seen him hanging out with Princess Eugenie in years now. And I imagine maybe they still talk, but are they hanging out? Probably not. And that's because Harry and Meghan are the toxic ones. So if you have a toxic relationship, who you want to lean on is people who have good relationships with their family because maybe they can help you see, well, there's this side, there's that side. Sometimes it's better just to let things roll over for like the good of everyone. What you don't want to do is talk to two people who have catastrophically destroyed their lives in many ways, damaging their children's lives, and lean on them for support. I'm sorry, that's not a good idea. That is not a good idea. You want people who can actually help you mend fences rather than people who have built a brick wall 10 feet around their lives to prevent people from telling them, oh, yeah, guys, maybe you don't have the best relationship in the world. So, with all of that out of the way, let's look at the actual reports here because it's always good to look at what the press is saying. And it all started with Matt Wilkinson in The Sun. So, here is the article. They're calling it Beckxit. Oh my goodness, guys. Prince Harry and Meghan's secret mansion summit with Brooklyn Beckham and Nicola Peltz to share trauma of toxic family feuds. And I understand them wanting a sympathetic ear, you could say, but the problem here is that Harry and Meghan have not gone through the toxicity and come out on the other side with mended relationships. They are still more divided than ever. And I would just keep them at a distance. Harry and Meghan are not two people you really want to associate with. It doesn't go well for anyone to associate with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle generally. Generally, it doesn't go well for you. So that would be my thing. Like my advice to them is find people who have had relationships with family members and there has been strife, and then they've been able to mend it. Those people can help you. Harry and Meghan cannot. So the both couples are said to have found a lot of common ground after dining in private at the Sussex's Montecito mansion. So this says they're secretly supporting Brooklyn Beckham and wife Nicola Peltz. And here's the other thing, guys. I would always say sort of avoid getting in between a family feud. That's just never a good idea. That's never a good idea. Maybe go to somebody and talk. And if both sides agree that there's somebody who can maybe help, that might be a good idea. But I would generally say don't get involved in a family feud. It doesn't help you. And as a reminder, although it is different because Nicola's father is quite wealthy, but the true, you could say, power resides with the Beckhams, the older Beckhams, and of course the royals. And so Harry and Meghan don't really have that much to offer other than doubling down on your already, you could say, spiraling thinking of separation. They can only reinforce that. So it says the quartet dined at the Sussex's mansion in Montecito in California, just days after Brooklyn skipped all of his dad's 50th birthday celebrations. Bad on you, Brooklyn. Go anyways. Suck it up. Be a big boy. So here's the Beckham family. And when you don't show up to these sorts of things, it's just very obvious. Source familiar with the event said Harry and Meghan were very empathetic and very kind to them both. Of course they were. Meghan, is always interested in whoever has the billions of dollars, let's be honest. Harry was fully aware of the situation and offered Brooklyn his unwavering support as someone who has been through something similar. Yeah. Yeah, run, Brooklyn. That would be my advice. Run fast. The Duchess of Sussex and Nicola found common ground after both were accused of wrecking their husbands' families, sources told The Sun. Harry offered his unwavering support to Brooklyn at the family get-together. Well, when it comes to Meghan, definitely Meghan wrecked most of her husband's life, you could say. He lost his family, friends, country, job, purpose in life, so many things. And yes, he has a family now, but also his father might pass away and Harry might not make amends. And yeah, that might be a big regret there. Influencer. I like how they call him an influencer. That's funny. Brooklyn and his US actress wife, Nicola, who she's, again, hardly made a dent in the industry. Like she's sort of known as a Nepo baby who is using her daddy's billions to get places. Like that's, again, let's be honest, are said to have been gratefully received an invitation to dinner at the mansion. Came days after David's birthday celebrations. They found a lot of common ground. The last night, a source familiar with the intimate event said this was an unexpected invite, but one gratefully received by Brooklyn and Nicola, who both feel pretty battle wounded. And again, you'll find a sympathetic ear with Harry and Meghan, but will it actually be beneficial to you in this situation? No, because Harry and Meghan, again, don't talk to their families, either side really, and have a toxic dynamic. So I guess if you're wanting to find more toxicity, Harry and Meghan are the people to go to. Harry and Meghan were very empathetic and very kind to them. Harry was fully aware of the situation, offered Brooklyn his unwavering support as someone who has been through similar. I hate how they kind of they repeat the same things over and over again. And Harry, who has a father with cancer, who he does not talk to, and who does not talk to him. Yeah, that's a person so wonderful, right? Nicola and Meghan also had a bit of a deep and meaningful, as obviously both women have been positioned in the media as homewreckers, the women to tear apart their husbands' families. And I mean, for Meghan, it's especially true. Nicola at least tried. But I don't know all of the details of the Beckham situation, so it's sort of hard to judge where situations and tensions are rising. But when you do have a lot of money and you do have a lot of, you could say, clashes between two sides, I can understand why egos would get in the way. And yeah, Meghan has a lot of sympathy for her and said there was shared common ground. They didn't meet in relation to recent developments and headlines, but was an honest and very welcome coincidence. Sure. Sure. I mean, again, it's hard to imagine that Meghan wasn't attracted to the billions that Nicola's father's has. They swapped mobile phone numbers, but it's not known whether they kept in touch. Brooklyn was only 13 when he last met Harry. So yada, yada, yada. And it goes into a bit of the tensions between the Beckhams and the cosplay royals. Inexplicably, Meghan feared at one point Victoria was behind a leak of something as they gave the couple their full use of their Beverly Hills mansion. I mean, the idea that Victoria would be personally ringing journalists to get them scoop is ridiculous, and spoke to Harry about it. Harry's very protective of Meghan and deluded about her and decided to deal with the matter head on, directly contacting David. Harry was polite, but it was obviously a pretty awkward exchange, and David was mortified. And Harry reportedly snubbed David at Meghan's behest at the 2018 Invictus Games. Last week's catered Montecito soiree, because Meghan doesn't actually cook, was a prearranged event with Nicola invited through another VIP in attendance, one close to both Harry and Meghan. Around 18 other guests were there, including Paramount CEO Brian Robbins and his wife Tracy. Okay, so there's an interesting bit about Brian Robbins, which I was sort of made aware of watching a different like deep dive video. So Brian Robbins was actually pretty close, believe it or not, to Dan Schneider. So he was the guy on Nickelodeon who kind of ran Nickelodeon and would put like sexually suggestive stuff in these more kids programming and was like really inappropriate with other women on set and the female writers and stuff like that. And so I thought it was kind of interesting to hear that because again, it's just so evident what a ugly cesspool Hollywood is. And that's where Meghan wants to go kind of reveals a deep portion of her character. I think it's a nasty, gross cesspool of often gross people who just are there to get ahead and make money and willing to do any and everything in order to make that happen. And I think, we have the Diddy trial going on and everything. So I always think that's a good reminder that Hollywood is not this wonderful, lovely place people think it is. It attracts nasty people, to be honest. So just something to keep in mind. Tracy was also set Meghan's as ever jam. I'm so sorry. And it was spread. Well, I guess it was jam at one point, then it was spread, whatever. And so they claim the Transformers star. So this is Nicola. She was in one of the Transformers film. If you don't remember, that's probably because she wasn't very good in it. Has been a nightmare and driven a wedge between the family. Accusations her side fiercely denies. But then, of course, Catherine wore a suit by Victoria to a recent event. And they claim it was an act of sartorial solidarity. It was probably picked before then. This idea that everybody is like tit for tatting, like that's a Meghan Markle thing. That's not really what the royals are doing. Victoria was incredibly touched. I'm sure she was. So, and Brooklyn has been devastated by the fallout. Of course, he goes and chats with somebody who's had an equally huge, awful fallout. He'll always stay loyal to his wife no matter what. And for her part, it's fair to say Nicola is very headstrong. She clashed with Victoria on numerous occasions. Beckhams are distraught by the fallout and insists the door is always open to their son. He can get in touch with them whenever he wants, and they hope he does. But right now, that seems very unlikely. Brooklyn and David and Victoria are desperate to make things right, but only time will tell if that's possible. And so, yeah, none of this is looking particularly good for anybody, I think. So now they've updated. There's a news story on The Sun saying that taking a strange son, Brooklyn, and his wife, Nicola, under their wing, Harry and Meghan, is a huge stunt, a bold, defiant declaration of intent, and has turned the tense situation into an explosive one. This now looks set to become a nuclear Hollywood-style feud that will run and run. No one's going to emerge unscathed. I don't think it's that big, but it's not, again, particularly a good look to really associate with Harry and Meghan. It just doesn't go well for anyone. It just never, ever, ever, ever does. It's not smart. And so this I thought was interesting. And then we'll move on to the People magazine piece because they had Harry and Meghan's side. Talks about how obviously Harry and Meghan borrowed David and Victoria's mansion. But one of the things that sort of really, you could say, drove Meghan crazy was that she thought she was on top of the social pecking order. Meghan did, when Victoria also thought the same. And Meghan was irritated to discover that the Beckhams had considerably more wealth than herself. They owned 5 homes, had constant access to private jets, invitations to sail on yachts, and much more money. And we see this constantly is that Meghan is obsessed with money. She's constantly obsessed with money. She wants so much money. And I mean, granted, we all want to be comfortable, but this, I think, drives so much of Meghan and everything she does. It's always about the money. And she sort of hated the fact that she married into the royal family, thinking she had finally hit the jackpot. And then to find out her husband was this lowly millionaire with hardly any money to her standards, she just couldn't accept it. It drove her crazy. She wants Beckham level wealth, but she doesn't want to work to actually make that happen. And so that's kind of always Meghan's tension with anyone is that they're wealthier than she is. And unless they're willing to allow themselves to be used, Meghan gets sick of them after a while because then she's like, oh, they won't let me use their private jets or I can't use them to social climb and those sorts of things. And so that's when I think Meghan tends to fall out with people. And so then we have this People magazine one, which is Harry and Meghan's side. They went to the press and this was sort of just very, very strange. It's actually the #1 story on their website right now. People understands it was a group dinner held at Harry and Meghan's home. The couple were not directly invited by Harry and Meghan, which I find again really weird. You're throwing this huge party, intimate party with VIPs, and you don't directly invite people. It's weird. Brooklyn and Nicola were invited prior to David's numerous global birthdays, so the timing was pure coincidence. While it was an intimate gathering, there were several additional guests, including VIPs and film executives. Brooklyn and Nicola had a wonderful time and found Harry and Meghan to be particularly kind, caring, and generous. Of course, they did. Harry and Meghan are putting on a show for people. That's the whole point. It's a show. And I find that for people who are so concerned about their security to like allow somebody else to invite somebody else to their event is very strange. I would imagine that if you're actually concerned about your security, it's who you invite and nobody else. I mean, I'm sure what happened is they invited people and they're like, oh, let's have Brooklyn and Nicola attend. And it's like, even why? She's not a flop of a film that didn't make any money, as far as I'm aware. She's not known for her acting. She's known for her daddy's billions. And her father has gotten out of the Hollywood game. So what's actually interesting about Nelson Peltz, if you didn't know, is that he owned a bunch of Disney stock for a while and was attempting to get a seat or two on the board and was at one point finally blocked. And he dumped like billions of dollars worth of Disney stock and just said, okay, screw it. Allow yourselves to be driven into the ground. I don't care anymore. Just interesting things to know. There are tensions between Brooklyn and Nicola and the family, and they've been noticeably absent from all of David's celebrations. The relationship is definitely not beyond repair. They love and are always there for him. They're just hurt and disappointed that he's now playing no part in family life. Now, this could be tensions that happen when somebody marries and there's a new dynamic that has to form. And that's hard, I think, for some people to accept. But again, the last person you should go to help you manage this is Prince Harry. He has done a horrifically awful job of managing all of his family fallout. This is why they don't talk to him. Like, oh my gosh. And so obviously we have to get Harry's side. And so here they are at the Beckham UK premiere. Nicola is there. And there's also, I guess, apparently tensions because Romeo, I think it might be him, is dating somebody that Brooklyn used to date. And so that's part of the family tension too, apparently, allegedly. That is a story. It's a weird one. I feel like it's very weird and strange. And when it comes to family dynamics, they are complicated, infinitely so. And of course, when you have somebody marry in, that disrupts the family dynamic. And it sometimes takes a while to make those adjustments. But I don't think Harry and Meghan are ever the people to talk to about almost anything regarding family. They don't have a good relationship with theirs. On either side, they have fully separated themselves from anything. And so it's a huge mistake, in my personal opinion, for Brooklyn to, let's say, or Nicola to find common ground with Harry and Meghan because you don't want to find common ground with them. Harry might never reconcile with his father, and his father might pass away, and he's going to live with a lifetime of regret. And when it comes to his grandparents, Harry has lost time with both his grandmother and his grandfather. He could have had more time with them if he still lived in the UK, if he still had a good relationship, whatever, but he didn't. and they passed away. And I doubt he was on good terms with either one of them, to be honest. And so because of that, like, why would you ask Harry for anything? He can't help you. He will one day live, I think, with a lifetime of regret about how he has treated various members of his family. And so I would always argue, if you're looking for somebody to help you figure out how to have a good relationship with your family, look elsewhere. Look elsewhere. Harry's not going to be able to help you. He's really, really not at this point in his life. And you may find somebody who can, but it definitely won't be Harry. So we'll leave this story here. We'll see what develops in the future. But this was a bit of a surprise. But you got to wonder too, I should mention, what were they meeting about at this house? Because Harry and Meghan have been flopping all over Hollywood. Like, it's hard to avoid the failure at this point. And I can't imagine that anybody is that interested in signing them. Like, you would have to be a fool too at this point. I mean, there's a lot of fools in Hollywood, let's be honest. So I guess a sucker is born every minute. But as the industry is failing, as productions are moving outside of Los Angeles because of the insane number of rules that keep things expensive and untenable and so many different things, that Hollywood is an industry that's actually dying. It's not actually a good industry to be attached to anymore. It's one that's floundering, that's being beaten by YouTube and so many other places. So it's like Brooklyn and Nicola in some ways would be best not to get involved in there. And I'd be curious what Nicola's relationship is like with her family. I'm sure it's fine, but it's also interesting to think her father is a staunch Republican and a supporter of Donald Trump, and apparently reintroduced Elon Musk and Donald Trump together. I was reading that in an article and I was like, wonder if that's causing tension too. I'd be fascinated to know, but also daddy has a purse string. So don't too much. Anyways, guys, so much going on here that I really don't know, to be quite honest. But again, Harry's the last person in the world I would take advice from when it comes to family. Meghan Markle, too. So, guys, let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and I will speak to you again very soon. Bye.